Just a quick, what do we have here? I got 2 thumbs up but only 1 view. 2 likes, but only 1 person saw it. Just a heads up, what's that about? Very strange.
Hi everybody, today is March 27th, 2014. Southern California harbors to prepare for a potential tsunami threat. 5 California harbors are preparing for future tsunamis under a new state project that arms them with maps that identify potential problem areas. KNX 1070 Jan Stevens reported officials would use the maps to take into account tsunamis of different threats and sources, allowing harbor managers to draw up emergency plans to get vessels to safety. Officials with the California Geological Survey, along with the State Office of Emergency Services, announced Friday the list of participating harbors, including Los Angeles, Long Beach, Ventura, San Diego, Santa Cruz, and Crescent City. Future plans could also expand the mapping to over 100 marinas and harbors statewide, the Associated Press reported. A map of tsunami zones along the California coast also shows a potential tsunami threat could extend as far inland as of Costa Mesa, Rancho Los Mitos, and the Los Angeles River in Long Beach. Kevin Miller with the California Office of Emergency Services said individuals could also take steps to prepare for a tsunami event. People can walk from the coast out of the zone to safety, triggering that muscle memory when an event occurs. Miller said, having done it in the past, people can feel better that they know what to do and they don't have to think about it as much, having done it before. The announcement comes days ahead of Tsunami Preparedness Week, which spans from March 23rd through the 29th, and coincides with the 50th anniversary of the 1964 Alaska earthquake, in which 12 people were killed after a magnitude 9.2 quake in Alaska triggered tsunami waves. Millions of people enjoy California's wonderful coastline. Whether you live, work, or visit, it is important to be aware that the coastal region is vulnerable to tsunamis. California's large offshore faults and steep underwater slopes can cause a local tsunami to arrive in minutes. Tsunamis can also travel across the ocean from distant earthquakes. There is a San Francisco Tsunami Walk on Saturday, March 29th at 10:30 a.m. and begins at the Marina Green at Marina Boulevard and Scott Street. It says they'll walk inland along Cervantes Boulevard until we reach Fillmore Street. Our walk will end at the Marina Branch Library, where we can learn more about how to take care of ourselves, our families, and our neighbors in any emergency, even tsunamis. And there's a link where you can look up the map of your area to see what areas are susceptible to tsunamis. Alright, bookmark my site. I'll keep you up to date. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.
Hi, this is One for the Record. I'm Diane, and today is March 29th, 2014. Here are your news updates for today. There are still aftershocks going on in Southern California. We've had some tornadic activity, 2 tornadoes in Titusville this afternoon, late afternoon, and that's in Central Florida. Wacky weather all over from the Cmes. We did have an X flare. Another one. There's an X flare that has erupted, which is Earth directed, according to BP Earthwatch. And stay tuned. I will be running the JRLIBERTY show. And be safe, be prepared for anything. Not a lot of other news. Nothing on E&E News that's different. Nothing like that. So be prepared for anything. Be safe. And I'll see you again tomorrow on the flip side. Alrighty then.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Friday, the 28th day of March, year of our Lord 2014. Welcome to the John Moore Show. If you go to Republic Broadcasting website, that's republicbroadcasting.org, you'll see that we have a pledge drive going. You can get the details there. In fact, Mr. Statmiller has listed the monthly expenses for Republic Broadcasting, and he is asking that you consider making a pledge to help keep Republic Broadcasting on the air. We do have patiently waiting in the green room my friend Ann Morrison. Ann is a scientist and is an engineer. She pays attention to the things that concern us: earthquakes, volcanoes, violent weather events, various viruses and radiation events going on around the planet. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning, John. Well, we have a dangerous situation arising on the west coast of Africa, and that is that they have a rapidly evolving outbreak of Ebola hemorrhagic fever. Now, there's 3 different strains of hemorrhagic fever. Ebola is the most dangerous one, and it's killing like 90% of the people that are coming in, and it has been verified by the laboratories, by the way, and even by laboratories outside of Africa.
Right.
So what people are doing is they're going into Liberia, I don't know, from Guyana, because they have better health facilities in the nearby country, which of course is spreading the disease. And they've had 4 healthcare workers die from it too. Now, of course, the healthcare workers know how dangerous this is. It can spread by any kind of body fluid. And so you have to use eye protection and nose protection and, well, hand protection. I mean, you have to be pretty well covered up in order to treat this. Well, there is no treatment and there is no vaccine, at least not yet. They've been working on one. They say that they have to wear protective gowns, gloves, masks, as well as a face shield. And they're to avoid eating meat. Bushmeat.
Specifically, they're being told not to eat rats and monkeys.
Rats and monkeys, that sounds about right, yeah. It is carried by these other animals, too, by a bunch of animals. So it's not just people that are getting it. Of course, they think that there is a reservoir of this virus, but this reservoir of virus has been interior to the continent of Africa. And medical personnel have had to travel into, for instance, the Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. And so these are kind of strange because they're on the coast. And normally we don't think of them being on the coast. And we've spoken about this before, this Ebola. The fact that maybe there was a nation state that was developing it as a biological warfare virus and, spreading it deliberately and then modifying it. And if so, the fact that it showed up on the coast, on the west coast of Africa, that could be a staging area for sending it out into the world beyond the continent of Africa. So they're saying that travelers should be very careful, and anybody. Now, apparently, I thought that the incubation period was fairly short, but they're saying that, there was a suspected case in Canada.
Yes.
Yes, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. You say that fast.
Right.
And he had traveled to West Africa, so that we're talking about Guinea and Liberia, and he fell ill after returning. So he wasn't sick while he was traveling. Now, I always thought that the incubation period was very short, and that was one reason not to consider Ebola as a biological weapon. That is, if the incubation period is so short, then you can find the contacts, possibly discover the source, and wipe it out.
So the real question, and I talked to, I was talking about this earlier this week, I believe, after contact during incubation, are you contagious during that period of time.
Well, in many cases you are. And they've been telling us that, you know, they used to say, no, you're not contagious until you have symptoms, and that had to do with the seasonal flu. But now they've retracted that, and they said, well, yeah, you can spread it even before you get symptoms.
Well, typically, and I don't know what this man's travel plans were, but typically, on international flights, you'll go through a major hub, such as New York City or Chicago, and transfer planes. All the time, you're coming into possible contact with hundreds and hundreds of people.
Well, that's true. However, the laboratories, the initial test was, we don't know what this is, but we think it's Ebola. But the incubation time was so long on this that usually you can tell because Ebola is hemorrhagic. And so you get nosebleeds, you get bloody diarrhea, you're coughing up blood. It's pretty dramatic. And
but that's also, I have to stop and interject here, that's also some of the symptoms of radiation poisoning. Alrighty, let's continue.
They sent it into the Canadians sent it into the national labs or the regional labs, and they said, well, no, it's not Ebola. So now they don't know what it is. They're still testing him to find out what it is.
They should test him for radiation poisoning due to a lot of people with their SOAKs, radiation detectors, while they're flying, they're picking up a lot of radiation. To continue.
Testing him to find out what it is. Now, could this have been a false negative? Yes. Could this have been developed so it had a longer incubation period and therefore would be a more likely candidate for biological warfare? Yes.
Radiation.
See, that's what they were afraid of, is because if the incubation period is too short, then you can stamp it out. But if it's longer, then you can expose more people, and you can't go back and find the contact.
That's right.
In this case, they know that this fellow traveled to West Africa. He wasn't even in the DR Congo. He wasn't in the center of Africa. He was on the coast, and yet he still managed to come home, and he made it home. He wasn't sick on the flight, and then he went to the hospital.
Hold that thought, Ann. We got a break. Call number is 800-313-9443. It's Friday, the 28th of March. Visiting with Ms. Ann Morrison. Ann, there's an article here. Apparently the CDC is looking to possibly get involved with providing laboratory assistance and maybe people on the ground also.
Well, it's good. A lot of these things have been found up in Canada, and you wonder why they aren't found in the United States. And, well, I'm sure we have as many people traveling to West Africa as the Canadians do. And I think the CDC does need to get involved. The World Health Organization has not required that, and they have not required any particular testing on incoming travelers. China has. China has unobtrusive infrared thermometers, and if you go through an airport in China, your temperature is taken. And
well, China has a heavy presence in Central Africa, in case you don't know it. They're all over Central Africa, the Chinese.
Yeah, Central Africa, but this is Western Africa.
That's right. But with these diseases do not respect national borders, as we're finding out.
Well, we don't know how it got into Western Africa. I mean, they haven't tracked down the person that brought it into Sierra Leone. And then it's also in Guinea, which is right next to Sierra Leone. And then the people from Guinea it's going from Sierra Leone into Guinea, and then the people in Guinea that are sick are migrating into Liberia, because Liberia has better medical facilities. And
well, they're also banning the consumption of bat soup. Apparently, it's a delicacy there, bat soup.
Yeah. Well, when you're starving, you learn to eat bushmeat. And you know, I'm sure that Davy Crockett ate squirrel in his time.
Well, I've eaten squirrel.
What's that?
I've eaten lots of squirrel. We got a call. We got a caller here, Ian. Gary from Pennsylvania. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Ann. How are you two today?
Good,
Oh,
good.
I don't want to take you off topic. John, I sent you an email, and I tried to call yesterday while you had the good doctor on to talk about the energy cleaner. And if you'd rather talk to me offline, I would appreciate that. I'm sure you would. Mine hasn't worked since I got it. That's one of the. I was wondering if there was any way to test to find out if there was a problem with the energy cleaner or if it's just me.
Well, give me a call when the show's over, Gary. We don't want to get into engineering here on the show, but
Right.
just give me a phone call when the show's over. We'll talk about that, figure it out.
Is your number on your website?
It is, yes.
Okay. I will call you.
Under contact. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought
Anyway.
you were going to say that the Chinese had biological laboratories in Central Africa and were fine-tuning this Ebola virus to make it weaponized for biological warfare.
You said they do have?
No, I thought that's what you were going to say because you said that the Chinese were in Central Africa.
No, the Chinese are in the process of colonizing Central Africa. They're building roads and water treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, power generating plants, hospitals and schools, and all the things they would need to colonize Central Africa.
Well, they're also selling Brazilian soybeans to the United States, by the way. And the commodity markets still haven't caught up with that little maneuver that the Chinese did.
Well, the Chinese
Anyway.
are the merchants of the world. You go to third world countries all over the planet, you find two ethnic groups, Indians and Chinese.
Oh, okay. Well, I would believe that because the British colonized India, and therefore you'd think that they would do some colonization of their own. Yeah. All right, we need to move on unless you want to talk a little bit more about these bioviruses.
No, let's move on from there. Go ahead.
Okay, well, we have a serious situation at Hanford. Hanford is on the Columbia River in the eastern part of the state of Washington, just across the river from Oregon. And what they did was they put mixed waste into barrels, and then they buried the barrels. And they have a place called the Vapor Control Zone. This first I've heard of a vapor control zone, but apparently these barrels you can't control vapor. I mean, you can try, but
Right.
vapor is a gas, and it's also a fluid. And when it forms with a lot of force. That is, it expands rapidly. And when you have that, then you have additional pressure, in some cases thousands of pounds per square inch of pressure that you didn't have before. And if you don't factor that in when you're designing the barrel, the vapor is going to escape. Anyway, they had some employees, a group of employees, and they're saying 11 people out of that group. They haven't said how big that group was. They go down and they they check the barrels once in a while. They have a vapor control zone. I don't know how long this vapor control zone has been active. I don't even know when it was formed. But in any case, they were in it, and they sent 11 people to the hospital. What happened was 2 people got sick, and they said that they breathed in fumes that tasted like copper. I'm not sure what copper tastes like. Do you have any idea?
Oh, sure. All I need to do is put a pen in your mouth and you get an idea pretty quick. It's kind of a bitter taste. But I read the article about these people, and their symptoms are classic radiation exposure symptoms.
Well, yeah, and they're still suffering effects of breathing in the vapors, headache, chest pain, difficulty breathing, nosebleed, sore throat. One employee has coughed up blood. Now, apparently what happened was they called in and said, "We got sick people here." So they sent out another pod of people. I don't know what to call them. They sent out another team, and those people got sick. The next batch of employees breathed in the fumes that was Tuesday. So the first batch was on Monday and then on Tuesday. And so this is, they have an industrial hygiene department there of the Washington River Protection Solutions. and they monitor chemical